background.
Welcome, everyone, to Salt Lake Expositor, where we have Randy C. Watts and Megan Connor and myself, Gene Judson. And we're glad to have Just Call Me Kim and Tim Rathbone in the house so far. We'll see what happens if other people join soon. Oh, there's more. And so anyway, yes, Elder Christopherson's younger brother arrested for SA. And I'll just say, his name happens to be Wade. And right off the bat, we're not covering this just because my middle name is Wade. And as far as I know, it doesn't have anything to do with the name, although we're both Mormon and we're both old, although he's like 6 years older than I am. So, Megan, you want to, or Megan or Randy, you want to say anything ahead of time? Megan also has some other breaking news. But
I know we just jumped into this, and but welcome to our listeners. And I think before we end this show, we should each take a minute and say what we're thankful for towards the end, because this is probably one of my favorite holidays coming up. It's Thanksgiving. So
it is mine too, Randy, and I love that idea.
Great.
I like to eat, and so it's right up there with all my favorite eating holidays.
I hate eating. Ooh, yuck. Donuts. Ah.
One thing I found out today because of playing puzzles is that today was called Franksgiving 90 years ago or so, because Franklin Delano Roosevelt changed it from the traditional very last Thursday of November to the fourth Thursday of November to boost the economy, to allow 6 more days of Christmas shopping, because for some reason people don't go Christmas shopping until after Thanksgiving. Now we're lucky to have Amazon, and it's pretty much Christmas every day at my house. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like every day there's something on our porch.
Well, that's nice. You just go out to your porch and there's gifts.
It's like magic. It's with
Santa brings the gifts year round.
I don't even think Amazon has the priesthood, and yet they still are giving and giving and giving.
Wow.
Amazing. And if you go by the Costco calendar, Thanksgiving or Christmas starts in October. So there's even more shopping time.
Right.
It's absolutely nuts that before Halloween, these stores are carrying Christmas decorations.
They want you to shop early and often.
Well, see, I'm later in the show when we give our thanks, I'm going to tell you why I despise Christmas. I really am. I am a Grinch. I am a Grinch.
I can't wait for it. All I know is if it wasn't for Thanksgiving, even though Randy despises Christmas, he might have his Christmas decorations up already. But because of Thanksgiving, he has his Thanksgiving decorations up.
That is actually very true.
Even if he doesn't like holidays, he loves that his neighbor hates his decorations.
Yes,
so he would put them up even if he didn't even care about holidays. Just
Speaking of news, Randy, do you have any more to report on the crime, on the brutal crime that took place in your front yard? Have there been any indictments?
No, I still haven't gotten the paperwork. It's the court is pressing charges on this old gal, but I haven't gotten the paperwork yet.
We might have to wait until the church puts out the Randy C. Watts papers, where we can uncover all the information that happened to you.
Well, we should put in a FOIA request and get those docs right away. Do some reporting on it.
Yeah, maybe I'll contact RFM and see what he can do for me. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to get to this old gal and take care of her.
Well, I would love to cover the case on my channel, Randy. I'd love to have you on for an interview.
Well, you know what? I think, although I'm a little bit hesitant because I don't want you getting this is dangerous business is what I'm trying to say. And I don't want to put your life at stake, defending my decorations.
Well, I have caught a lot of heat for defending people in the past, but it's an occupational hazard, and I believe the truth is important, Randy. So I think it's important to talk about.
And there's always more than one side to a story.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah, she may have a darn good reason for shredding my inflatables. I would like to show you my new inflatables that I have up for Thanksgiving, but I'll do that a little later in the show.
Okay.
But my yard is well decorated for Thanksgiving, and it'll be a smooth transition to my Christmas decorations.
Lovely. Looking forward to that.
All right, Megan, are you ready to share your first clip of the day?
Yes, I have a clip to share from Megan Hayes of Generally Unquotable, and she is covering the Christopherson story. And it's not just because this person who has been arrested is the brother of a general authority, but it is kind of because this person is the brother of a general authority. We expect more. We should expect more of our church leaders and their families, frankly. And the fact that, SA is a rampant problem in the LDS church, even among the families of general authorities. And I think it's important to always cover these. It needs to be exposed so that people understand what they're risking when they have activity in the Mormon church. So I'm going to share this clip with you guys.
Come in. I don't know. That wasn't me.
If I can, oh, there it is. Okay.
News. Wade S. Christopherson, brother of LDS First Presidency member Todd Christopherson, has been arrested on suspicion of child SA. Christopherson, 72, was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail on November 20th pending federal charges. The individual who told Floodlit about Christopherson's arrest also said that Christopherson SA'd them when they were a child. A second individual then contacted Floodlit confirming the arrest. Floodlit is not aware of any allegations of wrongdoing against Todd Christopherson, the Mormon apostle. I had to interrupt my yoga plans for this breaking news, so can we all just agree now that discernment isn't real? The concept of discernment in the LDS Church is the spiritual ability given to prophets and apostles, bishops, and stake presidents to know hidden spiritual truths, detect deception, and perceive danger or wickedness. The arrest of Wade S. Christopherson, the brother of an apostle, creates a conflict between this claim and reality in two primary ways. If the claim of spiritual discernment is true, it should act as a sophisticated protective warning system against threats to the flock, especially when those threats are close to the fold. First, the arrest suggests that either A, the spiritual gift designed to detect this exact type of hidden wickedness was never activated or used to protect the child in this situation, or the spiritual gift was used but it proved incapable of detecting a serious long-term threat operating in proximity to one of the church's highest leaders. The fact that an alleged abuser operating near the top of the church's social hierarchy was only apprehended through secular law enforcement and investigative reporting rather than through prophetic warning or ecclesiastical intervention logically demonstrates a failure of the promised gift of protective discernment. And two, the church's continued reliance on flawed, high-risk policies that empower volunteer untrained leaders to manage felony abuse cases shows a profound lack of institutional discernment. They have failed to discern the necessary structural changes required to protect children, instead prioritizing the reputation and control of the institution. Breaking news.
There you have it.
What are your thoughts, gentlemen? Oh, Randy, you're muted.
I knew that. I was just testing you guys. It's like school shootings. Every time one happens, it's a tragedy. It's horrible. And you hope that it'll never happen again. But they just keep coming. Well, on a way broader scale, to think of an SA case in the church before, what was that?
Gene
It's
was
like,
showing us his Santa delivery.
That was that knock knock.
oh,
The spirit
oh,
knocked on
oh
the
God.
front door.
I just can't believe it's one after the other. One, two, sometimes multiple times a day. And it's so disgusting. All I can figure is, if this was the true church of Jesus Christ, if this was a representation of God's church, then what the hell? What the hell? Seriously. Mormon men grow up so repressed. You know, they grow up so repressed. Everything is wrong. Everything makes them guilty. That
Don't look at porn shoulders.
Yeah. Don't, nudity is horrible.
Yeah, if you can make shoulders porn, you're repressed.
And then so they go through life playing all, they've got to have an outlet. And for some reason, who could possibly use little children as their outlet? Yet they do, all the effing time. And I am so disgusted. Every day I read on my Google alert, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there's a new chimo in town.
Right.
It just doesn't stop.
That's right. It'd be easy to say, and people do say it, that, well, the church is big and it's just a few bad apples. And while those may be true words, all you have to look is at the systemic situation. We did a show about the architecture of abuse, and it shows how the church is set up perfectly for people that choose to abuse, right? To hide
Yes,
people
and
to allow things to happen. That's part of the problem.
And I would argue it's not just a few bad apples. It's not. Look at how many bad apples there are. It's a lot of bad apples.
I thought you were going to say
percentage.
the church is run by men. That just shows you that they're all bad apples. But
Well, I
not
mean,
true.
women can be women are abusers as well. Women do abuse as well. Not as high a percentage rate as men do, but again, going back to this idea that when you have a church that was founded by a predator, everything else is fruit of the poisonous tree. The system is set up to protect abusers, and especially to protect male abusers of children. And what happens most of the time when a man gets caught in sexual impropriety or SA of a child? Generally speaking, it's swept under the rug, and that man gets a promotion. Let's make him a bishop. Let's make him a stake president.
And it starts because that man is the provider for his family, and you wouldn't want to hurt his wife or his family, his children,
right,
by taking away their source of income and stuff. Well, the church set that up by saying only the man can provide for the family, even though they say there's equal partners.
Yeah, and that is definitely part of the systemic problem. But the biggest part of the systemic problem is that, as Randy was saying, that Mormon men grow up sexually repressed. And I will say it 1,000 times more if I have to, and I probably do. Any culture or system where normative sexual expression is shamed or silenced, it's going to come out sideways. And we're going to continue to have this problem of abuse. And unfortunately, what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has shown is that their priority is not protecting children. Their priority is protecting their investments. Their priority is protecting their leaders. And their priority is keeping the people in power. Because if their priorities were other, they would do something about their SA problem, but they're not doing anything about it. And my biggest beef is that if this were actually the Church of Jesus Christ, if this were actually a system in which God speaks to a prophet, the very first thing and the only thing he would do is protect the children first above everything else. And that's
Well,
not happening.
I'll say that the church actually did something when Randy and I were young men. An apostle of the Lord took the podium in conference and said that the people who were abused should look at themselves for their level of
What was your contribution?
contribution.
Right.
And that
That's-
was actually in the Miracle of Forgiveness also. And also Boyd K. Packer gave a talk where he posited that concept too, that if you were abused, you need to look at what your contribution was to the abuse. And that was told to me as well when I was in a coercive control situation and ended up pregnant at 19. My bishop told me that I needed to consider what was my role and how did I contribute to the problem.
Yeah. What were you wearing? You know, that's the first thing that these patriarchal pricks tend to go to is if a girl claims that a young man assaulted her in the cultural hall behind the stage, their first questions would be, well, what were you wearing? What did you do to
Well,
entice
what
him?
were you doing behind the cultural hall?
yeah,
What were you
don't you know
doing
better?
with that young man,
Right.
in private? You should not have put yourself in that position. That was another thing that I got told in a separate incident was, why did you put yourself in that position? Why were you there? What were you doing? And
No.
why didn't you prevent that from
Right.
happening?
Now, Megan brought up that where's the discernment? And one thing that we can say is that we don't know Wade Christopherson, right? Unless he's been in our stake, we don't know who this guy is, right? We don't know the families of all the apostles. But we'll just say that on Floodlit, they list the fact that he had been a bishopric counselor, a missionary, worked in Sunday school, and was a ward clerk. So he's called to these positions, possibly amidst all of the things that he had been doing. And here's a picture of him. He was a missionary in the Argentina North Mission from 1972 to 1974. He married in an LDS temple in 1975. Graduated from Brigham Young in 79. Lived in Illinois from 85 to the 90s. Floodlit has received 3 reports from separate individuals who said they believe the Mormon Church disfellowshipped or excommunicated Christopherson sometime between 1995 and the early 2000s. And we'll also start off at the very beginning that he was arrested. He hasn't been charged yet. The pending criminal charges are related to allegations of child sexual abuse of multiple children. And he's the brother of Mormon Apostle Todd Christopherson, because you have to remember the D. LDS
The other thing that
member.
that makes me really angry is that it's as if his resume in the church is supposed to make up for the fact that he's been accused of SA. It's like, oh, well, I mean, we can't really believe these allegations yet because he was a returned missionary, he was a bishop, or he was a counselor in the bishopric. He taught Sunday school, he was a ward clerk. He's got, all of this impressive Mormon resume to say that he has all of these different positions in the church. So we should what? Give him a pass because we can't believe that somebody who had this impressive Mormon resume would do such a thing. Well, it's happened before, over and over again. A resume in the Mormon church does not negate somebody's, bad behavior.
Well, you know what? And I think Megan mentioned it in her video, but what does this tell us about the sacred ability for church leaders to discern? All of these leaders in the church, including Old Boy that we're talking about right now, what does that tell us about the people who called him, about the discernment? there is no discernment. If there was, he wouldn't be able to get into a position with children. But discernment is a made up fantasy by the Church of Jesus Christ of Mormon.
Yes, and we know that the church leadership does not call bishops and stake presidents based on their power of discernment, quote unquote, of who's a good person and who would be great for this role and who would serve best in this position. They get out the tithing records and they see who has paid the most tithing. Then that's the short list for who should become the next bishop or the next stake president. That's all they care about.
Well, knowing what I know now, and I wish I had known this back when I was a TBM with my kids, all 4 of my kids in primary at the same time, I would have been, I'd be out of the church a lot sooner, knowing that my kids are at risk every time they go to their religious mentor, their leaders, their teachers. Oh my gosh. And I've got to wonder, how many of the apostles have a few skeletons in their closets?
They all do. They all do, because all of them have received the second anointing. And so other than shedding innocent blood, they can do whatever they want and they're automatically, they get a pass. They're forgiven. And so you can bet that all those stories about Gordon Hinckley in upstairs rooms with young men, you can bet that those are true. You
So
can
he
bet
did
that all
more
the
than wiggle
stories
his
of
ears, you're saying?
apparently, any rumor that you've heard about Mormon apostles or prophets doing nefarious things, being dishonest in their business dealings, et cetera, M. Russell Ballard giving Tim Ballard a pass on certain things or being involved in his business endeavors when he's now been accused of multiple allegations of, coercing or controlling women. I don't want to say the actual words just for YouTube, but grape is one of those things. It makes me so angry, the hypocrisy of it, for these men to stand up in the conference center twice a year and pretend to be so effing holy. And yet for them to be doing all of these horrible, dishonest things and likely covering up the essay of children in the name of protecting the reputation of the MFMC. It just makes me so angry that the priority is not protecting children, because at the very least, that should be what is done. If you believe the Bible at all, if you believe that Jesus was a real person, what he taught was that if you harm a child, you might as well have a millstone thrown around your neck and be thrown into the depths of the sea. So I hope that's what happens to every single one of them who did anything to block the prosecution of anybody who has harmed a child in the church.
And I think right now we can say, because Rebecca Biblioteca put out a short, and I just looked it up beforehand to see on Google what is their news with Wade Christopherson in the last 7 days. Nothing. So somehow
Zero.
the church might be pressuring the Utah news organizations and say, hey,
Yep.
wait until, Monday, for some reason, I don't know, maybe there's some other church announcement. There is another church announcement they're going to get to pretty soon. But anyhow, maybe they think there's a way out. Maybe Curtin McConkie thinks they can get Wade Christopherson out of this mess. And so hold off, because we've got millions of dollars worth of lawyers we're going to throw at this. And so don't publish anything about it, because you might regret it. Right. And so we'll see what happens. It should come out this week, something.
I mean, even the Salt Lake Tribune, who you can usually count on that publication to, not be friendly to the church when it's necessary, even they haven't put out a story. As far as I know, I haven't seen one. The last thing that they had about Christopherson was like Todd Christopherson back on October 18th. So
Okay, well, I have put in the link in the chat a link to the show if somebody wants to come in and give their own thoughts, and we can move on maybe to the next thing, which is the announcement, right, about the age of the new sister missionaries. Do you have that, Randy?
Yeah, I think I have a little something on that. I'll first just tell you the news is that the church has now granted sister missionaries the ability to go out at age 18, just like the young men. It used to
And
be.
I was gonna have the heading of the show be Mormon women equal to men, and just say in that they could go on a mission at the same age.
Yeah, that would be a
It would be like
hopeful.
a teaser.
Yeah, that would tease all right, because in no way are women equal to men in the church. They are substandard. They are to be for the comfort and good of man. And this is something that, and I guess I'm a feminist, but I know how much sharper women are when it comes to leadership, when it comes to organization, when it comes to teaching. They're a hell of a lot sharper than these priesthood patriarchs that we have in the church. And I think they're intimidated. I think they're intimidated. But in this particular story, I believe that the reason that they're letting these sisters go out early is because they're hemorrhaging missionaries. They're the men, when they would go out at 19 and come back at 21, they'd leave the church right afterwards. I think it's staggering, or it's over a third of them end up leaving. And same with the sisters, I'm sure. They're trying to boost the number of missionaries so that they can boast about it. That, look, our missionary force is increasing. Yeah, that's because you're letting 18-year-olds go before they have a
right.
chance to get married. You know, it used to be, let's keep them home so they can get married. Now it's, let's get them out in the mission field before they get married.
Well, also, Randy, let's remember that one of the primary reasons that they want young people to go on missions is so that they can become more indoctrinated. It is the
Right.
cult within a cult. And that's part of the reason why they even want missionaries in the first place. It's not for the eternal salvation of the people that they're teaching out there in the field. It's for their own eternal salvation, quote unquote, which, read indoctrination. It used to be 21 for young women. Then they lowered it to the age of 19, I believe, back in 2014, 15. I can't remember exactly when, but it was right as my own daughter was, turning 19. And, it was the kind of thing where she was super excited about it. And I was too, because it now meant that she didn't have to wait, 2 more years. If she wanted to go on a mission, she could go right now. And,
Right.
she was at a point where that would have been advantageous for her, her life on the covenant path, quote unquote. So we were excited about it. And she did go when she turned 19. So now it's 18, which, again, you're talking about kids who have just barely graduated from high school. And most of them have never been on their own at all. Most of them don't know basic budgeting. Most of them don't know basic things like how to change a tire or, stuff like that. And they definitely don't have any critical thinking skills. So you're putting these vulnerable 18-year-olds into the missionary training center where they're going to be further brainwashed to only teach the approved topics. They're not educated about things like Joseph Smith's polygamy. Most of them have never heard of the gospel topics essays, and they're being given tactics on how to recruit learners who have recently been through a traumatic experience, because it makes them more vulnerable to open to making a huge life change like joining the church. And so, yes, they're trying to make themselves look better by having a higher number of missionaries out there, but they're also trying to indoctrinate their own members younger and younger, because then once they're indoctrinated in the MTC and through the mission experience, they're less likely to leave the church later, although lots and lots of them do afterwards.
Yeah, if it's okay, let me just read this, what it says here in this article. It says differences, this is regarding male and female missions. Differences in the mission experience still remain. The news release stressed that the experience is optional, emphasis in the release, for young
Or
women,
women.
while their male counterparts are still strongly encouraged to serve. Neither did the faith leaders alter the length of service, 18 months for young women, 2 years for young men. Nonetheless, Latter-day Saints who have studied and written about the role of women in the church believe the change will have a wide range of impacts, from raising the standing of women in the global faith to improving their academic outcomes, even as the effect on factors like enrollment in Utah schools remain to be seen. Nyland McBain, author of Women at Church, Magnifying LDS Women's Local Impact, said the change seems to downplay any concerns about sexuality or romantic relationships occurring between the male and female proselytizers during their missions. I didn't know that that was a concern, but a long-standing argument made by some members in favor of an age gap, while understanding the value of their service. It seems to put women on an equal playing field with men, McBain said, in terms of being responsible for ecclesiastical and proselytizing responsibilities. My ass. It doesn't put them on an equal playing field. The sister missionaries, if they come across one of the people that they're teaching, the investigators or friends of Jesus, they can't give them a blessing. They can't offer they can't speak in the name of God, but let's call the elders. They're the ones who can come take care of the
They
real
can witness
stuff.
baptisms now, though. That's a step up.
Yeah, and they can pass out
yeah, big deal.
programs.
They
can pass out programs.
What's hilarious, Gene, is that I used to witness baptisms all the time. As in, I watched the baptisms.
That's right.
Now what they're saying is you can put your name on the certificate as a witness for the baptism, but we still can't bless our own babies. We still have, no real authority, even in our own organization. If I was the president of the Relief Society organization in my own church, every single decision that I made for that organization, I would have to pass by a man, and the man gets the ultimate say. So if I go, for example, I want to call somebody to be my first counselor in the Relief Society organization, I have to submit a list of names to my bishop, and then the bishop is the one who gets to decide. And if he doesn't like the names that are on my list, he tells me to go back and try again. So even in the women's organizations in the church, even when usually a woman is the primary president, usually a woman is the Young Women's president, usually a woman is the Relief Society's president, even though you're the president of your organization, you still don't get to make any changes without having it approved by a man.
That's
so
right.
To say that it puts women on an equal footing for leadership in the church is complete bullshit.
And chats with Lori, is that who it is? Chats with Lori says, I think they want to send girls out to entice men to join. And I'll say that the vast majority of missionary work now is social media. And so I think that the church is thinking overall, there might be a little bit more safety in per missionary, because they're not knocking on doors out in the streets. But that they could set up their appointments by, getting the people's address first. And I don't know, maybe they're training the missionaries on doing background checks for the people's houses that they're going to see if there's any.
100% they're not doing that.
No, of course not.
We don't know.
Because background checks cost money.
You got a little confused, Gene. We're talking about the LDS Church.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, it's probably one of the worst kept secrets in missions that the cutest young women get sent to Temple Square and places where there's going to be a
Right.
lot of public interaction. So yeah, absolutely. Chats with Lori. They are sending young women out to entice young men and other men to join the church. It's really sick.
Yeah. And I've heard
Yes.
that for athletes, they're giving 1 year missions out. And so it's
No
possible that
way.
they offer some women 1 year missions so they can graduate from high school, go on the mission in the summer, come back a year later, and be all ready to go to BYU to get married. That's my thought.
Well, they're just right on top of things, aren't they?
Yep, hypocrisy over and over.
I don't mean, well, I'll say what I was going to say. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Is there anything else to present?
Yes, I have a story about the Mormon Stories podcast. Thanks to Kirsten for bringing this to my attention. I'm going to share my screen again. 1 second, please. Can I present this?
Well, let me take this off here.
Thanks, Wesley Curry, for watching.
Are you asking us about
No.
our Islamic work? Because this is not Islamic work. This is
Yeah.
literally, and I can't speak for Gene and Randy. I used to be somebody who wanted Mormons to continue Mormoning if they wanted to, and I used to be for a healthier Mormon church, but now I'm anti-Mormon. So my work is anti-Mormon because so many children are being harmed that I do not want the Mormon church to continue.
Yeah. And
It's not.
send me a link to where I can get $32,523 to join
Well,
Islam.
don't forget
I'm ready
electronic
to do
Islam
that.
dollars.
So
Yeah.
I was just curious, is he calling us liars and frauds?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah, that's what it
Wesley,
seems like. Yep.
you forgot bastards. I'm a bastard too. So
There you go.
just FYI.
And my
Yeah.
dad said I looked a lot like the mailman. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, you never know. So Mormon Stories podcast just posted this about an hour ago saying, and John Dehlin is a good friend of mine. I hold him in very high regard for the work that he does on Mormon Stories podcast. And he posted, feeling terrified that the LDS Church wants to use lawfare to shut down Mormon Stories podcast via trademark claims after we've been in operation for 20 years. Please help me find an IP expert if you can. mormonstories@gmail.com. And he posts an email from Intellectual Reserve Incorporated to the Open Stories board. He says, Dear Mr. Dehlin, I'm reaching out to you regarding trademarks and copyrighted materials used by Open Stories Foundation. This is from the manager of the Intellectual Property Office of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Part of my responsibilities is to help maintain the integrity of trademarks and copyrights owned by the church. My office has received questions and comments from the public regarding materials on the quote Mormon Stories website, YouTube page, and other social media pages that feature church trademarks and copyrights. While the church respects your right to host a podcast, operate a website, and maintain an online brand, the church has an obligation to protect its trademarks as unique identifiers to prevent confusion about what is and isn't official church content. By the way, my editorial comment is that there's no confusion whether or not the LDS Church operates Mormon Stories podcast. Anybody who listens to 5 minutes of one is going to know that.
Yeah, and probably all the calls that they're getting are the people that they're paying to be social media watchdogs.
Yes, 100%.
And
And the
SCMC.
the Strengthening the Church Members Committee, whose job it is to police the online space about these things. It goes on to say the email, for example, the quote, Mormon Stories name and logo shown below incorporate church trademarks, including the word Mormon and a quote, light raised design, both of which are registered trademarks of the church. The headers of your podcast, YouTube, and Facebook pages similarly feature the Christus logo.
Wow.
At the center of the official church symbol, another registered trademark of the church. Using these trademarks is likely to create confusion among viewers, especially when combined with a color scheme and font that mimic those used by the church. Now, I can tell you that is absolute BS. The LDS church does not own that particular color. Part of their trademark can be the logo, it can be the font, it can be the image, but it can't be that particular color. All of these colors have a number, a Pantone number, and it is not the same. If you look at the Christus on the left and the Mormon Stories in the center, it is not the same Pantone color. So they cannot claim that color. And also, it's not the same font. It might look similar, but it is not the same as this font. And
Yeah,
it
it
also
looks like it's
doesn't
in
have,
English too. Does the church have a copyright on English?
right, it is in English. And also, I was going to save this for the end, but I cannot stand the hypocrisy of saying that using the word Mormon is a victory for Satan, and now they're trying to protect that as a copyrighted word. I guarantee you that's because Dallin Oaks is now the prophet and not Rusty. Rusty never would have gone after Mormon Stories. They never would have gone after the word Mormon because, again, that's a victory for Satan.
Well,
But now
Mormon's
that
coming
Dallin
back.
is in,
You're predicting
Mormon is
Mormon's
coming
coming
back.
back.
It is 100%.
You heard it here
Especially
first. Or
if they're
fifth.
going to come after John DeLynn for using the word Mormon, I guarantee you they're going to start using it again. It's no longer a victory for Satan. Now it's part of the church. And also, can we just talk about the ridiculousness of the LDS church using the iconography of a church building and the iconography of a pipe organ as copyrighted protected material? It's ridiculous. I don't know who approved
It's
that copyright, but it's ridiculous.
I can't wait for
Um,
my
Yes.
letter. Latter Daily Digest is pretty close to Latter Day something.
Right. And again, we're going to continue because this is still, the rest of this is infuriating to me as well. The quote, Mormon Stories website, YouTube page, and other social media pages that are used to promote your business and podcast likewise feature pictures copyrighted by the church, such as the image of President Russell M. Nelson shown below. So now the image of church leaders are copyrighted. So we can't even use a picture of a prophet or an apostle in a thumbnail without getting sued by the church.
What?
Literally, what the hell? And that's
That's
the
so
lightest word that I can use.
I'm pretty
It
sure
goes
that
on.
the church must have been recruiting from the Scientology lawyers lately.
Yeah.
And they must have
Right.
either be paying them more or promised them a better place in the celestial kingdom than
Right.
the Scientology people get.
So it goes on to
well.
say, using trademarks and copyrights in this way makes it likely that a person seeing your iconography would reasonably, but wrongly, assume they're viewing church affiliated or sponsored content. For these reasons, we ask you to agree that you will remove and discontinue use of the church's trademarks and copyrighted materials on your platforms. This is a free speech violation. And what's ironic is they go on to say, the church respects your right to free speech, bullshit, and has no desire to censor your podcast, website, or social media accounts in any way. Bullshit. Our request is that you update elements of your branding to ensure viewers can distinguish your content from church content. This request is consistent with the church's response to trademark infringement. Our first step when we address an infringement, whether by a church member or not, is typically to notify the individual and give them the opportunity to make the necessary adjustments. The church appreciates the fact that making the necessary changes in an orderly manner may require some time, and we are willing to work with you to minimize the impact to your business. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Please let me have your response within the next 10 days. Manager of the Intellectual Reserve. The issue is It's going to take a lot longer than 10 days for Mormon Stories podcast to change all of the thumbnails and logos, etc., that have anything to do with, church images,
Of
whatever.
course, you can reply in 10 days by saying, I received your communication.
Sorry. Yeah, you can reply within 10 days to say, I've received your communication and I've retained an attorney.
Yeah.
But the problem is the church is so well funded and the church is so litigious that you can guarantee if John DeLynn does anything but comply with every request in this email, the church will come after him. The attorneys will come after him. They will sue him and they will shut down Mormon Stories podcast. And I just want to go on record to say that Mormon Stories podcast was instrumental in my deconstruction. It was a necessary part. I think I probably would have had extremely negative mental health consequences if I hadn't had Mormon Stories podcast as a part of my deconstruction. It is so necessary to people coming out of the church that Mormon Stories going away would be a significant detriment to the ex-Mormon community and post-Mormon community, and there are literally millions of us.
Yeah, unless Alyssa Grenfell changes her channel to Alyssa Grenfell says, fuck you, Mormon Church. That would be the only replacement for John DeLynn. But yeah, John DeLynn gave us information that showed us we were right to question things that were basically lied to us by the church. Gave us communities, the different Thrive events, the different other events that John DeLynn has sponsored over all this time. And so, yes, I totally agree with you that it'd be a travesty if some legal elf in Santa's North Pole of the Mormon Church were to do something bad in a Grinchy way.
Speaking of using the term Mormon, I have a quick video I'd like to show you as well. Once again, calling upon Megan Hayes, but I think she says this very well. It's exactly what I would want to put out to the world. So let me add that to the stage.
We have to take off Megan's other one. Oops.
Oh, sorry.
I got rid of you instead of your other thing.
Okay.
Hey everybody, I have something really important to say, and I wrote it down to make sure it comes out right. Please listen. I have gotten a few very sincere comments lately from devoted members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints asking me, respectfully, to stop using the word Mormon, and quite a few disrespectful ones too, because it is derogatory, offensive, and hateful. I want to respond to these people, and I want them to feel the love in my heart when I respectfully say, no thank you. In May of 1981, when I was born, Gordon Hinckley,
Whoops. I was trying to enlarge it and I went to the next video, which is really cute too, but oh shoot. Hang on. Sorry, folks.
hey everybody, I have something really important.
Okay, let's try again. Oh my gosh.
Important to say, and I wrote it down to make sure it comes out right. Please listen. I have gotten a few very sincere comments lately from devoted members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints asking me, respectfully, to stop using the word Mormon, and quite a few disrespectful ones too, because it is derogatory, offensive, and hateful. I want to respond to these people, and I want them to feel the love in my heart when I respectfully say, no thank you. In May of 1981, when I was born, Gordon Hinckley, then a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles for the Mormon Church, gave a speech over the pulpit in the church's Worldwide General Conference where he said, Thomas Bullock had joined the church in England in November 1841 and had emigrated to Nauvoo in 1843. He served as a clerk to Joseph Smith. He and his family were among the last group of saints to leave Nauvoo in the fall of 1846. While desperately ill, he was faced by the mob with rifles and bayonets at point-blank range and ordered to leave the city within 20 minutes or be shot. He challenged the men to shoot, suggesting that he would probably die soon anyway. The captain responded, "If you will renounce Mormonism, you may stay here and we will protect you." Brother Bullock replied that he had legal ownership of his home, that he had committed no crime. But, he said, "I am a Mormon, and if I live, I shall follow the 12. This story was told in my household as I sat cross-legged next to my many siblings, and we listened to my dad urge us to stay true to the faith during a Monday night family home evening gathering, of which we never missed a single week. We lived in a small mountain town where Mormons were not popular, and I spent more than one Saturday morning scraping the dried guts of eggs off the siding in the front of our very modest home. While sleeping on the trampoline under star-filled skies, the cool, calm air blowing across my face, I was startled awake by the mocking voices of people laughing and throwing water balloons that pelted the sleeping bags of me and my siblings and sent us running inside, clutching our pillows under the arms of our one-piece pajamas. I crouched silently on the worn carpet of the hallway and listened to the older kids talking to my parents about high school teachers who singled them out for being Mormon and how courageously my naive siblings held their ground. I am a Mormon, I thought, and I am not ashamed to be. When I was preparing to be baptized, I sat in front of my abusive branch president father and answered questions about my worthiness as a Mormon. Do I believe Joseph Smith is a prophet? Do I believe in the Book of Mormon? My hands were clasped tight to stop the shaking in my entire body as I answered in the affirmative, hoping that Heavenly Father would help me stay clean after my baptism and not do anything to dishonor Mormonism. I donned a gingham bonnet, an ankle-length dress, many a July 24th, and with 2 French braids in my hair, marched with the other primary children in a parade to honor the Mormon pioneers. When I was 10, my family moved to Utah, and I no longer had to defend my Mormonism. I just had to live it perfectly. I wore modest clothes to stake dances, and I attended seminary. I had a key part in the Ward Roadshow. I wrote letters to my future returned missionary husband and paraded around in my sister's wedding dress. I carried my scriptures in my backpack right next to my algebra textbook. Mormonism was my whole world, and in my mind, the only world. In October of 1990, Gordon Hinckley, when he was prophet of the church, an oracle for God himself, gave a talk where he said, "I suppose that regardless of our efforts, we may never convert the world to general use of the full and correct name of the church. Because of the shortness of the word Mormon and the ease with which it is spoken and written, they will continue to call us the Mormons, the Mormon Church, and so forth. They could do worse." More than 50 years ago, when I was a missionary in England, I said to one of my associates, "How can we get people, including our own members, to speak of the church by its proper name?" He replied, "You can't. The word Mormon is too deeply ingrained and too easy to say." He went on, "I've quit trying. While I'm thankful for the privilege of being a follower of Jesus Christ and a member of the church which bears his name, I am not ashamed of the nickname Mormon. Look," he went on to say, "if there is any name that is totally honorable in its derivation, it is the name Mormon. And so when someone asks me about it and what it means, I quietly say, Mormon means more good." I let that message sink into my little Mormon heart and flow through my entire being. I wanted nothing more than to be seen as a good Mormon. I wanted nothing more than for the people around me to realize how hard I was trying. I went to a church-run college. Matter of fact, it was the only one I applied to. I graduated high school second in my class. I spoke at my graduation. I started my schooling as a pre-med major and I excelled. As a Mormon woman, though, I knew my real goal. I got married at 20 years old in the Mormon temple in Manti, Utah. I had 6 kids in 10 years. I was a Relief Society president 2 times. I watched in awe as the I'm a Mormon campaign rolled out. The Mormon world that I lived in got a tiny bit bigger as I heard about the lives of Mormons around the world, some whose stories had similarities with mine. In October of 2012, I listened with rapt attention, furiously scribbling notes in my journal, as Ann M. Dibbs stood in General Conference and said the words, "I'm a Mormon. I know it, I live it, I love it." Wall plaques and t-shirts started to pop up with the phrase, and I so badly wished I could afford one. Between tithing and kids, though, my resources were tapped out. In 2014, when the film Meet the Mormons premiered, I wanted to see it. I was determined to see it. I lived in a small town in Alaska at the time, though, and the local theater, that was really just the high school auditorium, was not showing it. So I found a way. During a layover in Anchorage, just long enough to oblige, my husband and I got a rental car, found a theater where the film was showing, and without any witnesses, watched the movie to do our part. Mormonism is my past. It's what shaped every single decision I made my entire life. I see in the diversity of where I live now the rich cultural experiences that people bring from their heritage. My culture is Mormonism. It is the structure that I was raised with and the passion that brought meaning to my life. If the body keeps the score, Mormonism is in my cells, my very DNA. And while I no longer sit in the pews of a Mormon meeting house every Sunday to be fed the shame and the toxic perfectionism that I donned as a child and carried until I no longer had the strength to, I always leave space in my life to honor the parts of me that allowed me to survive Mormonism and allow me to enjoy the most magical life I am living today. Mormonism gave to me and it took from me, and I no longer allow it to have that sort of power in my life. I get to decide what the word Mormon means to me. Russell Nelson can stand up over the same pulpit that President Hinckley and Ann Dibb did and say whatever he wants to say. He can tell the world that the term Mormon is a victory for Satan. But you know what? He wasn't there when I read the Book of Mormon for the first time and heeded Moroni's promise and felt the spirit that it was true. He wasn't there when I wrote in my journal for the first time about how much I wanted a testimony. He wasn't there when I found out that Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon with a rock and a hat. And he wasn't there when my Mormon world fell apart. To me, the word Mormon is an important part of my story. I was a Mormon. I know it, I lived it, I loved it, and then I left it. But my past is still part of who I am, and I am still proud of who I am. If you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and you don't want to use the word Mormon, that's okay. You get to write your own story, and so do I.
I think she put that very well.
Well said. Thank you for sharing that, Randy. It's
You
so
bet.
important. It really expresses the way so many of us feel about, the complicated history that we have with the church. I'm a seventh generation Mormon. I say that even though I have left the church, I've removed my name from the records of the church. I will no longer ever attend the LDS church or pay tithing or do any of the things that I did when I was a faithful member, but I am Mormon. I am a seventh generation Mormon. And for the church to go and flip-flop when the presidency changes proves to the world that they do not speak to God or for God, because God, I guarantee you, does not give an F about what people call the church. If there
And
is a God, he's concerned with much more pressing matters.
right? Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't care about what handshakes, either.
Yes, I'm sure that that's true as well.
Well,
I think it's interesting that we've gone 100 years since President Hinckley was a kid and was clutching his teddy bear or whatever, or pillow, to now we have women in the church clutching their pearls.
Yeah, and to Megan's point as well, there's another famous story from the history of the church where people from Missouri were shooting Mormons on sight because the governor gave an extermination order that the Mormons had to leave the state or they could be shot on sight. And there's a famous story about a young boy who was, set upon by some Missouri people who pointed a gun at him and said, "Are you a Mormon?" And he said, "I'm a Mormon, true blue through and through, dyed in the wool," whatever it was that he said, that famous
Right.
saying. And they were so shocked and bemused by his honesty that they let him live. So if they're now going to say, they have said in the past, Mormon's a victory for Satan. If they're now going to reclaim that title and defend it legally, I have so many thoughts that I can't say because we're on YouTube and it's public. Suffice it to say that I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm outraged. I continue to be outraged by the hypocrisy of these 15 men who say that they speak for God. They will not protect children. This is where their priority is, to sue Mormon Stories podcast for using the word Mormon. Are they going to go after the Book of Mormon musical too? I bet they have. I bet 100% they've contacted all of the producers of all of the renditions of the Book of Mormon musical to say, sorry, you guys can't use our book in your show anymore. You can't use the name of our book in your show anymore. Because, you know, who cares about free speech? If you're saying negative things about the church, you can't use the word Mormon.
And interestingly, the Mormon Church has when they copyright their books and things, it's called intellectual reserve. So the Mormon Church has a leg to stand on to copyright everything that's intellectual.
Well, wait a minute. Now, look at Disney as an example. Can they actually force the world to not use the name Disney as their whatever?
Well, they could try. You know, I mean, I know that they're pretty, you know, vigorous in safeguarding their font and, you know, likenesses of the mouse ears and things like that. But tell us, Randy, what do they do to that end?
Well, I just, of course, there's things that they want to protect, but I'm talking about general usage of the world. Everyone talks about Disney.
Yeah.
And there's tons and tons of podcasts about it. And I don't hear them bitching.
But okay, so but largely though, I will just a little bit of, you know, pushback. I'm not disagreeing with you, Randy, but I think largely most of the podcasts that talk about Disney are positive. You know, my family's Disney vacation, or how I, you know, how I hack the Disney system and all of that. You don't see a lot of podcasts out there that are like, Disney sucks.
It's like if there was Disney Stories out there where it was about everybody that's never going to Disneyland again.
Yeah, everybody that's had a negative experience with Disney came on a podcast called Disney Stories. They might try to get that shut down.
You know, that's a good point. I didn't think that the reason the church is doing it is because they're just freaking little sissy sore losers.
Yes.
I think the biggest leg John has to stand on is that when you find out somebody's using your copyrighted material, you have to defend it right away. If you let it go on and on for 20 years, I did a story about John DeLynn and his 20th anniversary earlier this year. You can't say, oh, we didn't realize that's the connotation of Mormon that Mormon Stories was. Our bad.
I agree with you. Letting Mormon Stories podcast go on for 20 years without saying anything that's their biggest mistake. They should have gone after him right away if they really didn't want him to use. And as far as I know, that logo has been around for almost the entire time. I know it was originally gold. You know, and now there's a blue background to it. But again, it's not the same Pantone color that the MFMC uses, and so they can't go after him for that.
Doesn't the church copyright MFMC, Megan?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I'd be really surprised. You know, but if they do, and they want to come after me for violating it, so be it. I would love to have the, you know, the publicity. And that's what somebody was saying earlier, is that this is going to turn into a lot of negative press for the church and a lot of positive press for John DeLynn and Mormon Stories podcast. But they could, if they wanted to, they could spend the money and get Mormon Stories podcast completely shut down. They really could. And what a freaking travesty that would be. And what a horrible FU to all of the people that they've harmed over the years, who would now have even fewer safe spaces that they could go to you know, to deconstruct all the harm and abuse that was done to us, you know, in our time in the church.
That's right.
That's a good point that Kiki makes, is that the new prophet is an attorney, which may have a lot to do with why this is happening now.
Yep.
You know, and that I just had a vision. The Spirit came upon me and said, Gene, you know what? 20 years ago, the Mormon church thought it was true. And then if they just sent missionaries out, doesn't matter what anybody else said on the interweb. The truth will prevail. And now they're probably figuring out that they're not true and they better sue in order to keep their copyright for their business purposes.
Once again, if this was truly the Church of Jesus Christ, run by God, I don't think they would have to worry about this trivial BS.
Because God has lightning bolts. He could just do whatever he wants with them.
Again, it's the reason that I said that this move by the church, I apologize for dog toy noises. It proves to me that these 15 men, do not speak to God or for God, because I'm pretty sure that God would have more important things on his agenda than go sue a little podcast that has, less than 500,000 followers that is saying mean things about you, that are accurate, by the way, that are people's personal experiences in the church. Nobody's out here telling lies about the church. None of us have to, because the truth is so awful. And I think that's what they're offended by. That's the main reason they're pissed off, is because people who had negative experiences in the church have the audacity to tell their own stories, and people are listening to them, and people are finding community in them, and people are resonating with them, because the same things happen to a lot of us. That's what's pissing the church off. Their ego is so freaking fragile. They can't stand anybody saying negative things about them. It's ridiculous.
I have a thought that some BYU professor is going to do a study, and they're going to say, you know what? Jesus being a carpenter? Jesus was a lawyer. Look at all these wonderful things Jesus says. It's got to be a lawyer. It's the mind of a lawyer Jesus had. And so that's why the church is true, is because we're all lawyers leading the church to restore Jesus's lawyerly like church 2,000 years ago.
Lawyerly like, I like that. I saw a video yesterday, and I won't bother to show it, but it was heartbreaking. It was a bishop of a ward. A young lady came in, asked if she could talk to him, and said that she had been essayed by another member of the ward who was older and a priesthood holder. And he called the church hotline. And it was, of course, it went right to Curtin McConkie. And they explained to him that, don't worry about it. You don't need to do anything. And he said, what are you talking about? And he said, you don't need to involve anyone else in this. No law enforcement.
Right. It was once the laundry list of, is the church protected in this situation? That's when he said, oh, no problem.
Yeah,
we're good. You don't have to do anything. The church is not going to get any bad publicity from this or whatever.
So that week, and it was on the video, that next Sunday, he got up in front of the audience and he told them he loved them, and very eloquently told them that he was stepping down as bishop because the church is asking him to do things that he just can't do. I think that that's a wonderful sign that hopefully people are starting to hear. Not the church, but people within the church are starting to understand, wait a minute, yeah, you're right, this isn't right. This SA situation is out of control, and they want me to brush it under the rug. So I'm happy about that.
Church leadership might not have a conscience, but the church members mostly do, I think.
I think so. And I think that it's up to people like Gene and Megan and I and so many of our peers to get the word out. Otherwise, we'll stay buried under the blankets like we have been for the last 130 years.
You're talking about
And,
Megan, the anti-Mormon. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a scripture about that someday. The story
Well,
of
I
Megan,
think
anti-Mormon.
she should wear that title with pride, because what she's trying to do is help. And same here. People, if they want to call me an anti-Mormon, I'll take it. I'll take it, because I've had it. I've had it up to here with all of this total unmitigated, unadulterated bullshit that the church is spewing out there. And they're getting desperate, and they're making some incredibly bold moves in the name of desperation.
If anybody wants to join
will-
us on stage, I put in the chat again a link to the show. You can say your own words. What were you
I
going to
will
say,
be
Megan?
a proud anti-Mormon until the MFMC takes
Ownership.
recognizable steps to protect children. I will be anti-Mormon until they do that.
You mean like the repentance process? Is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah, I'm basically saying that, if they counsel with their church leaders, and they're given some actionable steps, they acknowledge that they've done something wrong,
apologize.
they apologize. Dallin H. Oaks have famously said, we don't give apologies, but they have to acknowledge that they've done something wrong. They have to apologize, and then they have to try to make it right.
Right.
They have to make restitution for what they have done wrong, which generally, involves some kind of a monetary assignment, a monetary apology to victims, which they've done in some cases, but, only if the person comes to them first and basically says, you're going to get sued, or you're going to get sent to, criminal court for being complicit in this. Anyway, until they take recognizable steps to protect children, I will be anti-Mormon, and I will continue to talk about it. And I know that my little corner of the internet is incredibly small, but I do believe in the power of ideas. I do believe in the good of humanity to want to hold people accountable to do better. And so what I hope is that people who hear this podcast, who hear these stories on a weekly basis, we are reporting almost weekly, there is a new SA case to report. And that's one of the things that the three of us have been, passionate about reporting on, is the continued abuse of children and other people in the LDS Church.
And the cover-up.
I hope that, and the cover-up. And I hope that people who, and that's the thing. Yeah, you're going to have abuse in every organization. It happens. But when you also cover it up, that's even worse, right? And that's what happens so often in these cases. So I'm hoping that everybody who hears these podcasts will go out and share them, go out and spread the information that needs to be heard, because there are people in the LDS community who are faithful people who have no idea that this is going on, because they stay away from anything that is negative about the church. What about your own kids, though? If you're a faithful, believing LDS member and you refuse to acknowledge the problem of SA in the LDS community, your kids are in danger, because you're allowing your kids to be in proximity with people who have had no background checks, who have had no reporting about predatory behavior. And in many cases, they've been promoted, or it's been covered up. They've been sent to other wards. It happens in every single congregation, in every single place. Because you know how I know that? Because of the architecture of abuse, where Tim Kosnoff, the attorney who's been most successful at suing the LDS Church outside of Utah, he knows and has firsthand information from predators that they report to each other. Where are the places that are safe for predators, where they are least likely to be prosecuted and held accountable? And the LDS Church is one of the number one places where predators are safe, as reported by other predators. That should scare the shit out of every parent in the Mormon community.
they're like a bank that doesn't lock their doors or their safe. If you're a
Yep.
bank robber, hey, go to Sam's Bank because they never lock their doors. And that's the same reputation that the church has. You're right, Megan. It's but not only does the church not deal with it, they actually enable it. They actually
Yes.
enable these predators by placing them in enabling positions. Ugh. You asked at the beginning of the show, Megan, what's going on with the case of my destroying angel that lives up a couple of houses from me. For those of you who don't know, I set up a nice Halloween decoration set up in my yard. It was for the kids. You know, it was a big pumpkin and a kitty. And this curmudgeon woman, I live in a very nice neighborhood. It's a nice gated community, and most people are just incredibly friendly. But this one woman started complaining about my decorations. Well, my decorations, I'm the vice president of first impressions of this neighborhood because when people pull in the gate, they see my house. And the neighbors love that I do the decorating that I do.
You rep them well.
Well, when 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 word got out that this lady sliced up my decorations, it got out to the entire community. So I normally don't decorate too much for Thanksgiving. I kind of go from Halloween to Christmas.
But you were
This year,
inspired.
I was inspired, and what tickles me so much, not only does it have a good point about what we were just talking about in the church, but now when you pull into our neighborhood at night, everyone put up their decorations early. And our neighborhood is lit up with, with Christmas lights that normally it's not this early. Our across the street neighbor is a good example. She told me that's why she was doing it. So,
Randy, I just have a quick question. By any chance, is this offensive neighbor's name Karen?
Or is
Just
she
wondering.
Mormon?
her name is, I thought, yeah, it's Karyn.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Her name's actually Karen.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, please continue. I'm sorry.
I thought you were messing with me, but yeah.
Yeah. Did you say you were going to show your Thanksgiving decorations?
Well, I'd be happy to do that. This is just what I put up for Thanksgiving, and I normally don't decorate too much, but that's my
I love it.
Thanksgiving yard. and you know what?
Oh my
Our neighbors are so kind, so sweet. They'll come by and knock on the door. They've given us thank you notes. They've mailed us thank you notes. They've given us, like fun gift certificates to, yeah. Anyway,
lovely.
so and that's our Halloween decorations. Wait till Christmas. But we try not to make it too Las Vegas-y. I mean, it's just cute, it's just, hey, welcome to the neighborhood and
It's
happy
cute.
Thanksgiving.
And also, I just have to say, Randy, all of us are pulling for justice for that poor sweet kitty who was, cut down in the prime of its life. I'm so sad about that.
That poor sweet kitty is in kitty heaven now. Because
Yeah.
this old gal cut the cords too, so that I couldn't reuse them. So I was thinking, well,
God,
maybe it's fixable, but no, it wasn't even near fixable. Yeah, she
You know
destroyed
what?
her.
I would officially like to start a GoFundMe to replace the kitty and to have it be a permanent installation at your house. I think that
Right?
kitty should be replaced with the
Year
exact same
round.
pumpkin and kitty and have it just be year round, and then do what one of my nearby a nearby neighborhood, I think I told you guys about the 12-foot skeleton that they have in their front yard. And instead of taking it down after Halloween, they just change its outfit. They will put like a little t-shirt on it and a hat. So I think that we should have the kitty and the pumpkin year round, and then just have, a little garland around it for Christmas, have it holding a turkey or something during Thanksgiving. We could come up with a lot of things.
I like it. I like it. The reason I mentioned that, well, do either of you have anything else to say regarding our subjects?
Well, I'm glad, Randy, for ending on a somewhat lighter note, because these things make me really, really angry. And I'm outraged about the behavior of the MFMC. I hope that people will do whatever they can, wherever they can, to spread the word about these things going on, because people need to know that the Mormons are not just, these young kids that go out and teach about the Book of Mormon. They're not just, oh, the nice, sweet neighbor that's down the street. The Mormon people themselves are generally good people, but the institution of the LDS Church is a harmful, narcissistic organization that perpetuates harm on a great number of people. I would argue that they do more harm than good, and they don't even take care of their own people. So I just want to end on, my last comment to be that we need more people talking about this. We need more education. We need more advocacy for children in the LDS Church. And also, thank you, Randy, for sharing your story with us today.
Of course.
I'll say that I'm thankful for Mormon Stories and John DeLynn. And I'm thankful for Megan Connor, and that she has a show on Monday nights called Family Home Evening, I think.
Yeah, we don't really have, we just call it family night. But
Night.
this Monday, actually tomorrow, is going to be a very special family night edition. We're doing a pause on our Book of Mormon stories, and we're going to talk about how to handle difficult family members during the holidays.
Named
Being
Karen.
that yes, if they're named Karen or not, being that we have a holiday coming up, a lot of people are getting together with family members who could be problematic or combative. Kirsten made a bingo card and we're going to be talking about strategies of how to deal with your family members that you don't necessarily get along with, whether they're Mormon or not Mormon, whether they're, religious or ex-religious, whatever it is, because a lot of us have trouble with our family after we've left religion, or after we've, come out, shall we say, as being on a different political side as our other family members.
There you go.
Well, I have to say that that's an incredible idea. That is so well timed and apropos. I also have to say that I'm thankful, and I know I've probably uttered this before on this channel, but I'm thankful for friends like Jean and Megan and the people in the Exmo community, our listeners. I've never been happier in my life. And to walk out of a hateful community into a loving community is the best thing that could have ever happened to me. So I'm very grateful for friends and family that love and accept me how I am. And I ain't that good.
Well, as far as gratitude goes, I want to say that I am grateful for both of you, Randy and Jean. I'm grateful for the community that you guys have built on your individual channels, and for the community that comes from my channel to join us. I'm grateful to have a safe space to talk about the things that we're passionate about. I'm grateful for, the Salt Lake Expositor, for, having the opportunity to have a platform where we can talk about the things that that are troubling and difficult about the LDS Church. But most of all, I'm grateful for Chosen Family, of which you guys are both, Kirsten and all of my community. You guys are who I choose to spend time with, because I value you as human beings, and I value what we put out into the world, and I'm grateful for it. So thank you for joining.
Gonna make
Gotta
me
love
cry.
that.
Well, is this back just about wraps up the show? Think
I think
so.
so. Yeah.
Unless there's
so.
any other news. I guess some people just didn't want to come on right now and air their dirty laundry against the church public, but we'll hang
Which is
around
okay.
for the after show. If somebody like Tim wants to come on in the after show, I know he does already.
Kiki,
Kiki, yes. Kiki,
Anybody,
come and say
literally
hi.
anyone.
any
can
of
join us.
it, Trevor.
Anybody.
I'm just looking
Trevor.
at everyone.
Well, I don't know about Trevor. I might leave if Trevor shows up. No, I just tease him. I like Trevor. So I'll do it one last time if I do the right thing. Stick
Just
it there.
call
Happy
me Kim.
Everybody, and if we don't see you, I hope we see you tomorrow night for family night over at Ex Mormon Snark. But if we don't see you, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And my hope for everybody for Thanksgiving is that you get to eat the food that you love and that you get to be with the people that you love.
That's right.
Have
And
a great week.
Tuesday we'll be with in Tim Rathbone's living room, and we'll have turkey early. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if you can have virtual turkey, but we'll talk about something that it says in the top.
We
The
will
headline.
talk about something.
And then we'll
There
talk
will be
about
a
30
title.
other things for the rest of the show. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching. Have a great Thanksgiving.